Hello everyone, welcome back to Flight School. I'm your instructor, Micah. Do not use anything I say or do in this tutorial and real-world aircraft as may hurt yourself or someone else. That being said, today we're going to be covering ILS approaches. Now we're going to cover the basics. We're not going to get into using autopilot with ILS and all that kind of stuff. We'll get into that in a later video when we get into advanced autopilot and things like that. For now, we're just going to cover the basics of ILS and what that is. So ILS basically stands for Instrument Landing System. Okay. Basically, you're using your instruments, using radio beacons to navigate to a specific runway and getting you down and landed on that runway. Now, to show you how you figure out some of the stuff you'll need, I use SkyVector for my charts. So go on to SkyVector or whatever, go to the airport you're wanting to go to, and bring up there. If you just select over the airport itself, you'll see that pops up. Just left click and then select the airport and choose your runway. Now, I'm going to be landing on runway 11 using just a regular ILS. Now, you see Cat 2 and Cat 3, that's ILS categories. We're not going to get into that today, but I'm just going to use Cat 1. All right, so this is your Cat 1 diagram, and let me blow it up here so you can see a little better. For runway 11, and you'll see it has all this information. You're thinking, gosh, why is all this information here? Why do I need to know it? Some of it's important, like high points, like towers and stuff, saying 769 feet up, whatever. But it's also important to understand one major thing, the frequency, the localizer frequency. You have to have that for ILS. And you can see it says 1-CAE. That's saying, hey, when you tune into the frequency, this is the Morse code signal that you will receive. And you'll see that, you'll actually hear it when we get in there. So our localizer frequency is going to be 110.3. That's how we're going to actually glide ourselves in, take ourselves into the runway itself. Basically not using a visual, we're using our instruments. Now, there's a couple different thresholds, as you'll see, stuck out here, and you'll see the little blinking lights, and I'll show you that once we're actually coming in. But it's important to know the localizer, important to note the direction that you're going to be flying. So the runway is 112 is the actual degree of the runway itself. So it's important to know that. And it's important to know how far out the start of the radio begins. This is about, I think it's about 15 nautical miles out is when you actually will start picking up that signal to the runway itself. And we're going to be starting off about right here. My aircraft's about right here, and we're going to be making the left downwind, and then we'll do our base and then our final, and we'll land at runway 11. So that's pretty much what you need to know based off this diagram. It is important to note airport elevation 236 feet. And yeah, so let's go ahead and jump into the game itself. All right, we're sitting here in our Cessna 172 above the ground. If you look back there, there's actually K-Cub, but we're not going to be flying there today. Today, we're going to be flying to Columbia. I think it's regional. And this is the airport right here. There's one runway right here. We're not going to be landing on that one. Runway 11 runs about right here. But as you can tell, it's kind of a foggy day, and you can't see very well. So we're going to use ILS Category 1 to get us there. Now we're going to be using this instrument piece right here, which is your ILS and glide slope indicator. And we're going to be using our radios. And of course, all the normal instruments you would normally use. So let's get going here. All right, I'm gonna slow myself down just a tad here. All right, so what we're gonna be focusing on today is getting our radio frequencies set up and getting down using ILS. Now, to get a radio frequency set up, you use basically the same thing you did with VOR navigation. If you haven't watched that video, it's the one previous to this one. What you're gonna do is you're gonna go over the radios, and this is the 172. Latest version of 172, not a glass cockpit, of course. And all you're going to do is select this right here. So we select down to our V-lock. And then we're going to change the frequency to 10.3. Nope. Come on. 3. Then we're going to make that one the active. You'll notice this has gone back to 0. And that's just fine because it's not picking up the radio beacon at this time, and that is completely okay. Let me turn back to the left here. Get a little bit of wind up here, which is okay. We're going to be flying at about a 290 degrees to get us on our, keeping us on our downwind leg of our pattern. Again, we're basically just flying a pattern like you've seen me do before. Oop. Here into Columbia. If we look off to our left, you should be able to see the airport. Yeah, barely. You can barely see the airport out there. And we're a little far from the airport. I know we are. But there's a reason I'm this far out. And I'm not doing necessarily like a normal pattern. A normal pattern, you're not going very far out because the whole idea is if you lose power, you're able to get back to the airport property. I'm not really worried about that right now. What I'm trying to do is keep us kind of a good distance out so you can kind of see how ILS works. And you'll see that in just a moment as we get ourselves closer to the runway itself, or the end of the runway, I should say, where the radio beacons are shooting out. And ILS works very similar to your VORs. The difference is, instead of having many spokes on a wheel, right, it basically has one big spoke that shoots straight down the runway path. There's also a horizontal spoke that shoots obviously down the direction of the runway, of course. And what it's giving you is giving you your left and right limits, and then that horizontal one actually gives you your top and bottom. Think of it like a big T or X in the sky. That's what you're basically having to deal with here with ILS. It's using radios, it's just radio frequencies, getting you to come into the certain runway from the correct direction on the correct glide slope. And I'm using my GPS here just to get me over there towards the front of the runway itself. There is, if you look at the diagrams of your airports, it'll usually give you directions from a VOR point saying, hey, to come to the ILS, for this runway, you need to come, let's say 205 from the VOR to meet up with our ILS. And that's useful, obviously, if you don't have GPS in your aircraft and you're trying to fly VOR from airport to another airport and then fly ILS in there. Oh, notice how something just happened right there on our ILS locator? That's important. It's basically saying, hey, you're coming into our runway and we're picking you up now, but you're way off to the right. I'm sorry, way off to the left, which is why it's showing to the right. So it's saying, hey, you're going to have to keep going right of the runway in order to meet up with our localizer. Now, that's fine because I know I am way off to the left, and I know when I'm coming in, I'm going to get, as I get closer to that runway degrees, it's actually going to bring me, that's going to swing from the right back towards the center. And that's when it gets on the center, that means I'm on the center line of that runway. And you'll see that as I come in. Go ahead and drop the flaps here. You'll see that as I come in, that line is going to want to shift. And you'll see me coming in straight on the path. Hopefully. Always hopefully. And notice another one just appeared. That's our glide slope indicator. And it's saying, hey, you're high. So, okay, that's fine. I'll go ahead and reduce throttle here. Throttling for altitude, pitching for speed. And we're just going to bring ourselves down. Going to drop another degree of flaps here. And we're getting close to that glide slope. Start leveling out just a little bit. And we're going to start making our turn as it starts swinging. We're just making that 2-minute turn basically, and we'll have to correct a little bit, and I'm not too worried about that. Just passed over, so we're going to have to swing back towards it, which is okay. Speed ourselves up a little bit. A little slow on that approach there. But again, all I'm doing is I'm watching this right here. I'm not even looking outside the the cockpit window right now. To prove that, I'll just do this. All I'm using is that ILS localizer indicator, basically the ILS indicator, to bring me in at the runway. Now as we get closer, what I'll do is I'll pop my head up so you'll see that you can just use this to bring you into the runway. But yeah, I'm just going to use this all the way in. Bring me nice and easy in. And as you get closer, it's going to start being a little bit more finicky. And that's okay, that's expected. Come on. Come on. Look, there it is. Didn't I tell you? Didn't I tell you guys? We're a little low, so we're going to bring ourselves up some. Straighten up, straighten up, straighten up. Bring ourselves down. Look up, or a little off. And you can tell, see how it's, first of all, notice the indicator, but notice right here, I'm a little off. So bring myself back on. And I'll let you guys look out the window. I'm not looking out the window. I'm still looking directly at this indicator. But you notice as I get closer, it starts going up and down, left and right, up and down. At this point, you should be able to see the runway. Cat 1, you should have already seen the runway. Not the best approach there, but you'll see, you get the concept there on what you're basically doing with ILS. All right, come on, baby. Come on, bring her down. There we go. There we go. And grease the wheels there. So you get the concept there. That's basically ILS. You're just using this indicator here coming in. Now, and as you notice, when we got closer, it was a lot harder to follow than when we were further out. Now, the concept of ILS is not to bring you in all the way 100%. It's designed to bring you all the way just close enough to make that the decision point. And every ILS has a decision point, decision mark, that you have to make a decision. Hey, am I going to continue, or am I going to miss the approach and go around? And those charts will actually show you what those points are. And obviously I made a decision to stay and to make the approach. But if you can't see the runway once you hit that point, you have to make the decision to go around. But yeah, that's basically ILS. I hope that helped you guys out. Remember, it's simple. Just put in the V-lock, and you'll see it pop up there, and you'll be good to go. All right, guys. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time on another Flight School.